I recently finished Sephonie, a game which explores both narrative and gameplay in ways that I find to be very interesting, and I'd like to tell you all about it. Sephonie was released on April 12th, 2022 by the duo of Marina Kataka and Melos Hantani at Analgesic Productions. I think I got it right this time. Taking place in the year 2049, we play the role of 3 scientists from 3 different nations, arriving to the island known as Sephonie. They're here on an expedition to study the life there, utilizing their technology to link with this life, understanding it and inheriting its abilities to allow farther traversal across this mysterious landmass. As they explore deeper and begin to learn more about this island, they start to discover the truth of Sephonie, and alongside that, begin to learn more about themselves and each other. This journey results in us visiting some absolutely stunning and surreal environments. So many moments just had me looking around and taking it in. Something that Analgesic has always been good at. It really struck a nerve of nostalgia I'd never considered before. This game really reminded me of playing old 6th generation Xbox, GameCube, PlayStation 2 era 3D platformers. I don't even think they were trying to invoke that feeling. As I said in my Anodyne 2 video, this low poly look is sorta Analgesic's art style for their games, which I find to be pretty distinct. Never got the vibe that I was purposefully recreating an older era as much as an art style that they enjoyed using, and have made their own. I think too easily people say things like, this game has a PS1 aesthetic or SNES art style, which I'm sure includes me. We cut our words to give enough meaning for video length. But even in a limited aesthetic, that doesn't mean there's a single art style that defines it. The personal choices of the artists can still be reflected in the subtlest of touches. One that I find great appreciation for as a visitor to this world, alongside Analgesic's other projects. This game also does my absolute favorite thing about 3D platformers, climbing up these massive high areas and being able to look down and see the progress we've made, where we've started, and how far we've come. Going to high spots to take in the view. Thank God I can actually move the camera upwards in this game. Anodyne 2 had a gamer crying with that one. And that gamer was me! I really like how this game looks, and the environments we get to explore. Hand in hand with this is the music by Melos Hantani, which I'ma be real, is starting to become one of my favorite musical artists. Like, I've been listening to the Angeline era music whilst doing my own work. God, it rules. I really shouldn't be because I'm planning on playing that game. That's the next game they're coming out with. And I should probably just let the music be more of a surprise as it's naturally presented to me in the game. When I think of Melos' music, especially that in Sephonie, it's just pleasant, calming electric synths that invoke many feelings of the past and the future. The kind of music that washes over and envelops you. It's what empowers every scene, every environment. It's part of what I love about Analgesic Productions, and what makes these games special. And I'll mention this later on, but I absolutely love the choice for the final fight battle theme, as it were. It's such a fantastic piece of music for that moment. That's all I'll say. As you can tell from the footage, Sephonie is a 3D platformer, but it's pretty far from your typical affair. While you will be moving and jumping, it's not very long where the more unique aspects of this gameplay come to fruition as you guide these 3 scientists. Which, with that in mind, these 3 characters can be swapped between on the fly with the press of a button. Gameplay wise, there's no difference between them. They all have the same stats, movement, it's just cosmetic. I prefer switching them if I think their color palette fits better with the environment, or after I finish a linking challenge, but sometimes I forget, and well, then I don't change them. When it comes to gameplay, Sephonie has a lot that makes it stand out in its genre. To note is the access of moves the player has. One of the most important and underrated moves I find is the sprint. It's not a replacement for walking or like a run button or anything. It's as much as a move as a jump is, because it's pretty hard to control, the camera being forced onto the way the character is facing, with you unable to turn the camera unless if you turn the character. So its purpose is more for setting up long distance jumps, and I think that's a really cool idea for a run rather than just a button you hold down the whole game, or a state the player goes into for holding down the stick for too long. Which, yes, I am playing this game on controller. It's surprisingly been a while since I've gotten to do this. With most 3D platformers, I just immediately go for mouse and keyboard, which I know y'all are already ready to flag the video for a statement that nonsensical, but hey, SRB2 converted me. Moving the camera with a mouse is mad nice, though it really plummets the video's watchability. But still, if you think that's atrocious, you all aren't ready for the fact that I play with both camera X-axis and Y-axis reversed. Yeah, I know. I don't know how I ended up this way either. Another one of the important moves that we'll be performing throughout our adventure is the air dash. This stops our momentum and brings us a short distance ahead, useful for making any gaps we can just barely reach. But it also has a secondary function. When used up against a wall, will instead be boosted upwards, making it sort of like this game's version of a ledge grab, replacing a rather slow action in other games with something that keeps the pace up, and honestly, just looks cool. You can only use it once before you're placed into a blinking freefall state, unable to perform any actions outside of movement. Okay, I'll talk about the wall running. Y'all have seen it by now, and I think it's one of the most defining things about this game's focus on parkour platforming to me. Wall runs are initiated by sprinting into a wall at a specific angle, not too parallel, but not just running face first into a wall, where you'll then be able to travel across it. I'm gonna be real, starting out, and I mean for the first couple of hours, I sort of struggled with these mechanics. There's going to be a lot of points where it feels like things just don't work how you'd expect them to, resulting in a lot of deaths that don't entirely feel like your fault. To a lot more intense 3D platformer fans that love snappy, tight actions and commands, it's gonna feel kinda loose and might not even be your kind of game. Which, by the way, when I say death, I mean just falling down a pit and restarting at the nearest checkpoint. There is no health or enemies, it's just you and the platforms. And this game is constantly giving you checkpoints, so it really doesn't matter too much if you feel like the game has forsaken you, because you can just hold down a button and then try again at the nearest checkpoint. But after those hours of struggle, I have to say, once you've really mastered the movement in this game, you can pull off a lot of satisfying sick tech, like wall running to get enough height to then do the air dash upwards. You can just see this footage of me at the beginning of this game versus the end. How I struggled to get up to this platform, and how I so easily cleared it with the same exact abilities I had at the start. I just learned throughout the game and it became more experienced with my moveset. It actually captures that sense of parkour so well, where the way you see the game world changes once you understand what you're capable of. You'll be scanning ledges, walls, judging distances, formulating a plan of action, and performing it. The wall run opens up so many possibilities that at first you would never consider, but once you understand it, it truly feels like you can go anywhere. You just have to be creative enough and find that starting point. It's so unique. I feel like most games with a wall run would only allow certain designated spots to use it, having it be a pretty limited ability. But here, it's one of the core pieces of your moveset, and any wall you can do it on. Also, being an analgesic game, they take these few moves and iterate upon them. You'll find walls where you can air dash multiple times, power-ups that increase your sprint speed, jump height, dash distance, and capabilities, walls that don't make you lose height whilst wall running, and some that even boost your height upwards. And when the player does get new permanent abilities, such as being able to hook on these ribats, yes, ribats, my gamer, it opens up new paths and shortcuts to previous areas in a natural, ingenious way. I find the layout of these different areas to be sort of falling between two types. First are large, sprawling areas with no real intended order to go, leaving it up to the player to use the abilities given to them and force their own path, often taking ways that feel wrong or backwards, but end up leading to new spots to explore. And then there's more contained sections of the area with an intended platforming challenge. Let me tell ya, this game often does expect the player to have a pretty good grasp on the mechanics, with some surprisingly tough platforming that you'll just barely make. If that doesn't sound like your kind of thing, then don't worry. There are options to turn on infinite dashes, jumps, all that if you're just here for the vibes. Speaking of options, I also decided to lower the FOV, field of view, which I think added to that feeling that I was playing a 6th generation console 3D platformer. So last time on Anodyne 2, that game ended up messing with my motion sickness, and unfortunately the same fate fell on me here. I kinda struggled with the first couple hours of this game. I don't know why. If I had to guess, it's the way the camera sort of snaps when it gets caught on walls. Maybe most 3D platformers do this, I don't know, but turning the camera can result into some pretty sudden shifts that ended up getting me kinda nauseous. I'm not sure if changing the FOV helped. I thought usually you're supposed to raise the FOV to help with these sort of things, not lower it. But maybe it's all just a matter of getting used to it, because after my first play session, I was pretty fine with the camera, potentially telling myself just not to turn too much. That's not really an issue with the game though, more like an issue with my existence. But I don't know, maybe something to consider. This game does have a breadth of options. Tweak it out and find what works for you. So by now, I know what you're thinking. Spacey? What's that you hiding behind your horn? And gamer? That's an entire gameplay system I haven't talked about yet. The reason these three are on the island is to study the life there, and this is done via linking themselves to the creatures. This plays out an entirely different gameplay system. Here, the goal is to fill up this bar, the bar being filled by connecting pieces of the same color. There are 3 colors the player needs to juggle, the same 3 colors representing the characters and the areas they visit. There's kind of a thematic choice with them. There's no type of complex chaining or anything like that. The goal is to simply and always piece as many colors as you can together. When you run out of pieces or run out of space for your pieces, then you must end your turn, where any collection of more than 3 of a color is removed, and the progression bar is filled. I suppose I was sort of lying when I said there wasn't any health in this game, because the player has 2 hit points here. You may notice at the top, a line on the progression bar. This is known as the first down line, and the player needs to cross it before ending their turn, or they'll have to punt the ball to the enemy team, switching sides. That was a joke. The player needs to score enough points in their turn to cross that line, or they'll take damage. That's the only failure state of this gameplay. As you progress farther in the game, with each creature you successfully link, you'll gain new pieces to use. None of them are typically anything complicated, usually being 4 pieces, sometimes 3, but there's no worry about dealing with any Lovecraftian pieces. We give those to Mickey. While this may sound simple, you may have also forgotten that this is an analgesic game, and it seems that their philosophy is taking simple ideas and presenting them in new context. I found that nearly every link adds some new mechanic, new entity on the board that messes with the player and makes them change up their strategy. From parasites that destroy pieces, rocks that need to be destroyed by placing tiles near them, spots that need to be destroyed by sacrificing a tile on them, to even score spaces to build from. I wouldn't say these are very stressful or strict, rather quite the opposite, being pretty relaxing. There's no timer or anything, just some chill music as you connect colors. I found these to be pretty easy. You just have to think a little, and they're pretty free form. This isn't a puzzle game with an intended solution. You find your path and solve it your way. It's kind of expressive in that way, much like a lot of the platforming is. It's nice to see a balance between these two gameplay styles and how they evolve throughout the game. The gameplay here is truly great, and I found myself getting lost in a sort of trance-like state as I explored the island, solving these puzzles. The visuals, the music, the gameplay, it all flows into the same river that I just found myself getting lost in. Like, even once I beat the game and started messing around in the debug areas, I still just found myself vibing and platforming about. Also, yeah, there's developer rooms the player can explore in, seeing unused ideas and earlier level states. You too can try to link with Nova and softlock the game. Truly, her mind is too complicated for us to understand, or it really is just completely empty. Finishing this game, a part of me was kind of sad it was over. Next time I play a 3D platformer, I'm going to be thinking of this game's movement, thinking of, you know, if I had a wall run I could use here. It was really cool in that regard, to try a moveset so unique. Like, so many platformers hit you with the, alright, here's your double jump, go have fun. But there's so much more you can do in these spaces, and I enjoy the approach that Sephonie takes with it, as we explore this incredible environment with these characters. And it's with those three characters that I can talk about what might be my absolute favorite aspect of Sephonie: the characters and the story. I'll try not to get too spoilery. When I talk about the ending, I'll just use vague terms that you'd have to play the game to understand. But the way this game tells its story, explores its narrative, is incredible. Our three scientists are Amy, Ryu, and fellow wafer lover Ingwen, my gamer. The three of them hail from different nations, Amy from the United States, Ingwen from Taiwan, and Ryu from Japan. It's throughout this journey that these three begin to learn more about the island, themselves, and each other, through what is known as mind shares. These moments are just straight up some of the most beautiful scenes I've witnessed in a game. They take place on these massive maps, the camera panning around to each point, with others in the background, even clipping through the ground at points. It's visually stunning, my favorite parts of the game. I love the artistic choice as well, for these massive areas to be full of untextured models, representing them as memories. These people in these places existed, but we can't remember exactly what they look like. They're faded in a way. I love how the sharing goes to us as well, with these segments referring to the player as the character we're learning about. It really puts us in place with these three. We have come quite a way since Anodyne 2's storytelling of just characters standing with black text. Characters here are posed dynamically, have animations, or just represented in ways very metaphysical, presenting the spirit and soul in something truly enrapturing. Even the later mind shares that are just text and images still give off an ethereal feeling. Faded memories shown through images that are often hard to make out anything about them. Combined pieces making a faded whole. It's such a fascinating way to represent memories, the past. How it all blends and bleeds together rather than being perfectly formed. It's here we get a better understanding of the story and the meaning behind it, which I believe to be that of connection. There's a large focus of giving oneself to another, whether it be to another country or a person, the things we gain from doing so, and the potential identity we lose. The greatness of cultures working together, mirrored by the changing of their cultures as they clash. What gets left behind, stripped away for the sake of being together, where many become one. The lonely wonderment towards the knowledge and people we'll never fully know from languages we're unable to speak. The people we miss. Where we choose, if we should at all, to make our boundaries. This is something seen in a variety of ways throughout the story, as the characters quite literally connect with the island itself. It's about the many relationships people have with one another, and the places that they've come from. That's my take on it, at least. Perhaps I'm oversimplifying things, but it is a pretty complicated subject. This is just my interpretation. I found it to be very interesting. It brought a lot of questions to my mind that I don't think I've ever thought of in a game. I also really enjoyed the three main characters, learning of the issues they have, the things they're afraid of sharing with others, and how these three different people can find a connection with one another. I can relate with a lot of their troubles. The only thing that sort of perplexed me was the ending. No spoilers, but I kind of wish it was more balanced. I wish there was no mommy, but I'm really glad there was a gale of wind. I probably would have straight up been upset by the ending if there was no gale, but I do wish everything went as we would have expected, resulting in a potentially more fulfilling adventure than the sudden gale of wind, if you will. I kind of wonder if it was all added because of 2020. This game was inspired by those numbers. Though Gale did make the final boss even cooler. Seriously, that music mixed with those visuals in the background, it was such a beautiful, straight up unforgettable moment. And maybe having that be shattered was sort of the point. To be able to fully share the experience the main characters had. It's very interesting. I still like the ending, and I'll be thinking of that last fight for a long time. Sephonie is beautiful. I knew coming in I was going to play something great, but my mind got absolutely blown to a whole new level. The visuals are stunning, the music is incredible, the gameplay is extremely fun, and the story left me speechless. This is truly just one of those one-of-a-kind unique games that I feel like everyone should play. Which I suppose isn't the first time I've said that about an Analgesic Productions game. And I imagine with their next project, and all their future ones, I'll be saying it again. Sephonie was awesome. A truly ethereal experience of a game. I know it's not for everyone, but to those who it is for, I think we're on the same wavelength. Hopefully with this video, I've gotten at least one person to discover and play this game. If it looks like something you'd be interested in, well, it's on just about all modern consoles, and I'll be linking it in the description for itch.io and Steam. For those who haven't played, I hope you enjoy your time on that mysterious, beautiful island known as Sephonie. Shoutouts to Ken Chiago, Golly Gamer tier supporter, alongside everyone else supporting me, receiving my videos a week in advance. Sometimes I wonder if I should say anything at the end of these videos, kinda speaking into the void here, but yeah. Thanks for watching.